this on record. So all these do go into the Patreon. I will put them on YouTube for the first couple weeks. Our goal with these is just to get more exposure for the programming aspect. We feel that I've been a trainer for over 15 years, own 3 gyms, taught numerous trainers, and a consistent problem that we find is a lack of anatomy, of understanding anatomy and programming. So that's what we're here for. If you guys ever have any questions, case examples that you'd like me to review, Mark, I'm waiting for you to send me over our case example with the group of elderly ladies. I'd love to take everyone through that. That'd be a good opportunity to really fine tune a good program. Also, one of the guys for our Zoom on, he kind of has a cool story. He's out by you, Mark. He's in Boston and he's a firefighter, and he just passed his NASM and he's in charge of doing the programming for the whole team. So him and I are going to link up and we're going to go over some programming for them. I love programming. It's fascinating stuff. And yesterday we took a look at Rhabdo. So for those that weren't there last night, who could tell us something about Rhabdomyolysis and tell the class what we learned yesterday? Anyone?
Rhabdo is basically when there's so much muscle damage and micro tears in the muscle that the kidneys can't filter out all of the muscle. And so, yeah, the piss will be like dark brown. And you have to go to the hospital. And you were saying how you should never get rhabdo from, training someone. And people typically get it if, like, in a fire, if a building falls on them or something like really traumatic happens, that's when you really see it, but it is quite rare.
And just remember, if you were to work with someone who ever experienced it, it's not like they're going to get it again unless it's within a 4-week period. So as long as it's past 4 to 6 weeks, they'll be good to go. That's just more so of a fear factor. I don't know if you guys enjoy reading. I'm a big advocate of reading, and I challenge all trainers to be able to read at least a book a week. Today, just for fun, saw how many pages I could read during my workout. I'm kind of a weirdo, so I'll work out, I'll do a set, then I'll read. And I was able to get through 25 pages. So if you work out 10 days, that's 250 pages, almost a book in 10 days. So I don't know if you guys have heard of the fella, what's your name? David Goggins. And before he wrote his book, Can't Hurt Me, which I think is phenomenal, I would encourage you to listen to it because he does something that I'm actually going to adopt and I'm going to do for my book because it was brilliant. So what he does is he has someone read it for him. I'll read my book, but then he does a podcast within the book, which is really neat. So it's like he has this author read it, and then they break and then they talk about it. So you don't get that experience in the book. So I'm going to do that with my book, and I'll read the chapters, how to become a successful personal trainer, and then I'll do a podcast section with some of the greats in the industry, Brett Contreras, Tony Gentilcore, Ben Bruno, and people that are doing it most importantly. So I'm excited to get that out there. But when I read the book, Living with a Seal, I don't know if you've heard of that one, but Jesse Seltzer, he's married to a lady who invented something that I have no idea even what the hell they are, but Spanx, I guess that's a big thing in the girl world. But she invented Spanx, and Jesse is an entrepreneur, and he was at an Ultraman race, and he came across David, and so he paid him to live with him for a month. And so it's kind of neat because in the story, Dave is just a badass, and he's just a hard-headed dude. So, 4 o'clock in the morning, he'll go in the bedroom and start whispering in Jesse's ear, wake up, time to go for a run. And they'll go for a run in, Central Park, and they'll come back and they'll run in the snow. They just do all types of crazy shit. But within about 11 days in the book, Jesse talks about how he's really dehydrated from these workouts because he has them do like this 1 through 20 pull-up exchange. So it's like you do 1, you rest, and you do 2, and you rest, and you do 3. And he's just doing a lot of work for he's not deconditioned, Jesse, but it's just insane. And so then Jesse tells a story about how he's going pee, and his pee looks like it's almost like the color of blood, and it's because he's dehydrated, and that's exactly what Rhabdo was. So he actually got Rhabdo. He didn't know what it was at the time, but for most people, you're not going to, not most, 99.9% of the normal population, you're never going to experience Rhabdo. And it's not like something, if you were to see someone working out, like, oh, they're starting to get lightheaded, they're going to get Rhabdo. No, there's nothing that you'll be able to see. It's just a ton of volume. So when you're doing set after set, high reps, 15, 20, 30, that's how you can experience it. So that's why you look at our beginning programs. You'll never see me design a glute program for someone who is a beginner and have them doing hundreds of lunges. That would be inappropriate. So that's what we did yesterday. The workout was primarily band based. Today, we're going to take a look at an individual who wants to put some size on. Client B, and as I'm finishing up my training book, I'm going to put out a couple other books, hopefully soon. One of them is this one with programming. So I want to have a good 30 case examples, the programming, the exercises for the core patterns for the first one, and then maybe work out 12 or so, and to teach you guys better habits with referrals and how you can begin to change your programming 10, 11 sessions in, so then your client sees the value and they continue to train with you. So we'll have case examples with programming, but also our body mass equation and how you, just like yesterday, I was on a call. I'm a nutritionist, but and I don't really call myself a nutritionist. I technically am, but I'm able to do nutritional consultations, and my hourly rate is $200. And when I train you, it's going to be training. If you want to talk about nutrition, you do a nutritional consultation. And so I was driving home yesterday, and I did one on the phone, and we talked about the body mass equation. So her stress and her sleep and all these factors that go into nutrition. It's not just about calories, but we will have those in there as well. So let's take a look at the client B today, 36-year young male. He's an attorney. He's 5'9", 155 pounds, BMI of 23. I never worked with a personal trainer before and have no medical issues. I suppose I'm considered skinny fat and I've always wanted to have some sort of muscle definition. I've half jokingly told people I want to look like I was carved out of a block of wood. While this gets laughs, a part of me actually would like to approach that in some form. I know this requires years of serious commitment, and I would at least like to try and push myself towards that goal. I've lifted weights in the past, but have never really followed a program. I've basically gone online, read some articles about what one should do to get bigger, get leaner, etc., and followed that for a few weeks. At some point, I feel like what I'm doing isn't working. Then I go looking for another article online and start the cycle again. I basically feel overwhelmed by information and would like to talk to someone who actually knows what they're talking about and follow a specific program. All righty, so we're going to go through taking a look at what this program would look like for this guy. Are there any questions that you have before we start going over the basics for programming? And what we're just going to look at are the acute variables, what that's going to look like within the program, and some interesting words that stuck out at girls may hear this and be like, oh, it's kind of like dorky, like you want to be carved out of a block of wood. But I can't speak for all guys, but that's why you get that term bro. It's like we want to be fucking jacked and we want to be shredded. We want to look like a superhero, Superman and Wolverine. Those guys were badasses because they had chest muscles. They got big ass V tapered back. They got a six pack and they're just absolutely shredded. And that's something that, a lot of guys, I think inherently you can want to emulate within a way. You see all those Marvel movies and the workouts that those guys go through. And they go right on the cover of Men's Health, and every guy, he wants to look like that. So do you guys have any questions about any information that he's given us from this?
Chris, is he currently working out now?
No, he's not.
Okay.
That's a good little thing to put in there. Current program, not exercising. So let's address this thing right here. Do you guys?
Sorry, Chris, I have a quick question.
Good.
First time caller. What did you? How much of this did he type, and how much did you?
I didn't. Only thing I put in here was current program, not exercising. This is right off of our assessment form. I just copied and pasted it right in here.
So this might be a random question. you get the people. Do you have a special trick, or because the scenarios you use, the people open up a lot. I feel like if this was me, I'd probably type in like lose 10 pounds. You know, like I wouldn't go in this depth. Do you have a like certain questions in the questionnaire that get people to open up, or like how
Yeah.
are you able to get this?
So, for example, your questionnaire could say, "What are your goals, Brandon?" And it's almost you could get someone who's a little more loquacious, like this fella, and he types in a freaking. And I'll tell you, I think you saw some of the ones yesterday, Brandon. But like I have some that are down here, almost a page. Like some of these are long. It's like they get into papers, and it's interesting because what you're going to find is with the assessment, it's the same exact way. You're going to have people that if you ask the right questions, they will talk and talk and talk and talk. And that means you're doing a good job because then they're beginning to trust you. So the questions I'll ask are, what are your main goals? Well, I'll ask a short-term goal, long-term goals. How do you plan on achieving them? What have you done in the past? Do you have any injuries? Is there anything that we should be concerned about with your current program? I ask a few other questions at the end. I'll also ask on some of my online ones, like, if you could have any superpower in the world, what would it be? Just to kind of bring people's guard down, because trainers, we have this reputation. Let's think about movies. And if you guys were to think of a movie with a personal trainer in it, what comes to mind?
Just a big old jack dude who's like kind of out of his mind and just like yells and screams, kind of.
You got Pain and Gain. That was where they killed the people and they're a bunch of fucking idiots, right? Rocky, you have Mick and he's just yelling at you, come on, Rock, old school mentality. One of my favorites was um, not old school. What am I thinking of? Dodgeball. Yeah, no one makes me drink my own blood, and he shocks his nipples because he's looking at a donut. It's like we're fucking lunatics. And so you have the client who has this what media says about us. We're just jacked, we're in great shape, and we're going to tell you to start eating celery and tilapia. So it kind of sucks when you have this lighthearted approach. I feel like their guard comes down and they really just open up. I do get some that will just say lose 10 pounds, want to train twice a week, but I would say it's about 70-30. And this is a great one because there is a lot of information from here. So I wanted to take a look at a couple things right here. What do we call this? Do you guys know? I've gone from online, read some articles about how to get bigger, get leaner, followed that for a couple of weeks, felt like it wasn't working, moved on to the next program. What do we call that? What's very common? You guys know?
Well, it just seems like he never stuck with something. Like he wasn't staying consistent. He was like hopping programs.
Yep. So that's what we call it program hopping. And so you do. I remember I had a class and we were going over diets, and one of my challenges for the students was to try a diet and then give a presentation on it. And this was a while ago. And this one student came in and talked about carb backloading. And carb backloading is by a fellow by the name of Kiefer and whatever. But the student came up there and just ripped the diet. And I asked him, and I said, how long did you try it for? I did it for one meal and it was just terrible. Like, that's not a really good sample size, right? So if you try a program for a week or two, not much is going to happen. And why is that? Can you guys tell me why you're not going to see much? Let's see what we got here. Who wants to chime in? Consistency brings results. That's true. That's good. I'm looking for some nerdy shit. Take a look at
Homeostasis?
Good. Who said that?
Your body's got to have time to adapt to it. I mean, you're shocking the body with a new program with any consistency to whoever put that in the chat room. There's got to be some form of routine for a certain period of time before you see any results.
Could you imagine if you're part of the internship, I gave you 17 words of the shoulder, and then a week later, you need to memorize all the muscles around the knee. And then a week later, all the muscles around the hip, and then it's too much system overload. And so as with the body, And let's see what that person says. No chance to get muscle memory. Okay. So, muscle memory is kind of a vague word. It's a catchy term that we like to use today, but it really doesn't mean too much. Muscle confusion in actual kinesthetic vocabulary would be referred to as neuromuscular communication. So what you see here, this is why when I meet with a client, as should you set realistic expectations. So let's not be an asshole and call this guy client B. So what do we want to name this guy today?
Rocky.
Huh?
Rocky.
Rocky, I like it. So Rocky comes in, and when we meet for the first time, you're going to confirm the appointment the day before. You're going to be looking the part, dressing the part. I'm like a sports announcer right now. I got my Lulu shirt on, but I got my sweats on. So I would be dressed in the proper attire. I would have everything set out. I would be there at least 30 minutes beforehand. I would have appropriate music on. I'd have the assessment on the table. I'd be ready to go. It's showtime. So when he comes in, I'm going to set realistic expectations for what to expect today, especially in La Jolla as well as West Hollywood. It's important to tell your clients how long it's going to be because of that fifth P, of which NASM doesn't tell you about. What's that fifth P that's really important when it comes to marketing in your business?
Parking.
Parking. So I can't tell you how pissed off a client would be if you said it's going to be 30 to 60 minutes and then their 60-minute timer went off and they got a ticket because of you. They're probably not going to come back. So I'm going to set realistic expectations. This is what we're going to do today. We're going to go over your goals, talk a little bit more about some of the things that you mentioned in your online assessment. I'll do some basic measurements. I like to get blood pressure, measure out those guns. I'm going to take you through a few core patterns. Probably do like a push pattern, maybe some bench press, some pull-ups, and some squats. Then afterwards, what we'll do is we'll sit down and we'll talk about a training program that's going to be best for you, and we'll go over training packages at the time. Do you have any questions, Rocky? Set realistic expectations for how long it's going to take. And then when we're going through this, and he tells me about a story about, tell me a little bit more about program to program. What programs have you done, Rocky? He tells me he's done Wendler 531, and he did the Wolverine diet and the Spartacus 300, and he's done all these crazy diets, but we weren't consistent with it. So what happens is the first month of training is primarily neurological. And as you'll see right here, we have this crazy strength gain in the first month. I've had clients that will go from barely being able to bench the bar to doubling that in a matter of 4 weeks. Now, how awesome would that be? If we go to the gym today, let's pretend like you're going to hip thrust 200 pounds. That's what some of the students in San Diego were doing today. And then a month later, you're doing 400. That's nuts. But that's what happens with beginners. You get really strong. Don't expect a lot of fat loss. I always tell people a good month is if you weigh 130 for, say, girl, and say this guy said 155. If you weigh 155 at the end of the month, that's a good month. Because what that means is we lost 2 or 3 pounds of fat, we gained 2 or 3 pounds of muscle. Now, the cool thing is month 2, that's when we really start kicking in because you'll see the hypertrophy really starts kicking up. And so what's going to happen is our muscle is going to go up and then our fat's going to continue to go down. So, Rocky, what we're going to see is in a matter of 3 to 6 months, we're going to start going up 2-3 pounds every single month. Now, do you guys know what a good month-to-month increase for a beginner male when it comes to hypertrophy is?
Are we talking
One
increasing?
and a half.
I'll answer. Who was talking first? It said, "Are you talking something?"
That was me. Are we talking in terms of muscle mass? How much we're gaining of muscle?
Muscle, correct. And then whoever chimed in on the second part, I would agree with you. I'd say anywhere from 1 to 3. There's going to be some things that will factor in your age, your obviously your sex, your genetics. You're going to have some dudes that will just put on more size. Your calories, obviously, if you're supplementing with anything. So I would say 1 to 3 pounds would be a good number. So you're Alan Aragon has one of the better platforms out, not platforms, but what word am I looking for? Guides out there when it comes to recognizing the normal amount of muscle gain per year. And it's about 20 to 30 pounds. So every year past that, it's cut in half. So year 1, 20 to 30 pounds. Year 2, 10 to 20 pounds. Year 3, 5 to 10 pounds. So what do you think are the biggest influencing factors that are going to contribute to that 20 to 30 pound muscle gain?
Protein intake,
Mhm.
sleep.
Yeah, I would definitely say sleep is up there. I would say definitely protein would be a big one. What else?
Progressive overload
There
with
we
the
go. So
training.
what does that mean?
That means, every time, not every time, but as you progress either from month to month, you change up those acute variables so that you are progressively, if he's benching 135, switching him to 145 to 155 and slowly progressing the
Mark,
overload.
you're speaking a language I'm not too familiar with. I think what you mean was a stability ball dumbbell press. And I'm just
I
joking.
definitely didn't mean that. I would never say that on your call. I would never. You said foam roll yesterday on the call. I almost note said you didn't just say that, did you?
So I know you're absolutely correct with the progressive overload. Now, whether it be week to week or month to month, there needs to be some progressive overload. That comes from Milo of Croton. That's going to be on the cover of my book too. I got a badass photo of him walking with the bull. And week to week, month to month, the bull got bigger. Therefore, Milo got bigger. Now, what we need to do is set realistic expectations with Rocky here. So, Rocky, let's think of it as just like Mark said, month one, we just did a test at a part of the assessment, and we were able to do the bar with 10s on each side. So that's going to be 65 pounds. So month two, we're going to start getting up to 105. Month three, we're going to get to 135 for reps. When you can start benching your weight for 10 reps, Rocky, your body's going to be looking a lot different. So it's good to have these norms where you can kind of give people a vision, because when you try these programs in the beginning, it's flair, it's fun. Oh, it's new. I'm going to look like fucking He-Man. But then you go through a couple of weeks and you're like, I don't look like He-Man, because the realistic expectations weren't presented. So when you let them know, it's like, give yourself a minimum of 3 months. But most of my clients really start seeing goals around 6. So now I give him a realistic time frame that, okay, 6 months. But then we got to look at your diet. And if he's coming in at 155 and next week he's at 154, whoa, hold up, Rocky. What the hell are we eating here? Are we trying to gain or are we trying to lose? Because the scale should not be going down when you're training regularly. So let's do a food log. Here's what I'm going to suggest is we're going to meet on a Thursday next week. It's outside of training. This is part of our nutritional consultation package. It's going to be X amount. And I'm really going to go in depth in your programming. We're going to take a look at your macros, your protein, carbs, fat, whatever. And then we can start addressing it at that point. But you should not be losing weight if your goal is to gain weight. So we got diet. I agree. Progressive overload. I agree. What else is an important factor that we need to look at?
Genetics.
True. I will say that some people obviously have better genetics. The Williams sisters, the Manning brothers, damn them and their parents, right? But, we don't have much control over them. So it was funny. If you guys know who Mark Bell is, he created this product. It's just about tag words today. And he talks about, oh, here's my new bicep thing. It's going to help you get your peak. No, there's nothing you can do to create a peak. A peak is strictly genetics. So there are some things that are just genetics. And I even had someone yesterday ask me, what are some things I can implement into my programming to grow taller? I'm like, bro, you should have picked out different parents because you're screwed. There's certain things that we can't do, change, right? But there are things that are more in our control outside of genetics. And what would that be? We got?
Frequency of training, intensity.
Those are the two big ones right there. So frequency is huge. You got to show up regular. If you do one, I don't care if you go to Brett Contreras with the best booty program in the world and you train once a week, that's going to be inferior to 2 times, which will be inferior to 3 times, which will be inferior to 4 times. Within reason, we want to find the gold spot, right, where you're able to optimize your results and not kill yourself, because working out 7 days a week, 3 hours per day isn't realistic for most of our clients, ourselves included. So we want to factor all this stuff in. Now, if Rocky were to tell me, I'm an attorney, Chris, I work all the time, I'm thinking I can train with you 1 time a week. Great, Rocky. I'm really looking forward to you. I'm going to suggest that we do our 12 pack, which is going to be It lasts us for 3 months, but I just want to set realistic expectations that most of my clients train 3 to 4 times and they get the best results. So the fact that you're going to do once per week, still awesome, better than not training at all. But let's give a 3-month program the expectations of a normal, let's not confuse that with a normal 3-month expectations, because you're going to be working out by yourself. And when you work out by yourself, why wouldn't you fall back into your bad behaviors like you did in the past, where you weren't, you get flustered or whatever it is. So I'm fine with the 1 time a week, but just set realistic expectations for the person. So then we got to look at the other parts of the equation. So you guys are right. We have frequency, intensity. Let's go to mechanisms for hypertrophy. What are those suckers?
Frequency, intensity, and time under tension.
Okay, so those would be the acute variables. Gosh darn it.
STD.
There you go. So it will be, it's actually VFI. And so what does VFI stand for?
Volume, frequency, intensity.
There you go. So let's just go here. Volume, frequency, and intensity. So the intensity is how much you're lifting. Volume is going to be reps and your sets with the weight. And frequency is how consistent you are. Now, a lot of this is the Goldilocks rule. And what's the Goldilocks rule?
Not too much, not too little.
There you go. So if you were to train, you have a client that comes in, Rocky's like, all right, Chris, fuck it. I'm all in. I want to start working out 3 times a day, 7 days a week. It's a little too aggressive there, Rock. Let's come back to, earth, and let's set realistic expectations. So what were you doing before? Wasn't training at all. Okay, so to go from 0 to 21, not realistic. I'm going to suggest we kind of meet right in the middle. Right now, let's aim for 5 times a week. Let's go for 5 for a month, see how you feel. Then we can go if you want to start doing double days. I'm not against doing double days. If you look at what Bradley Cooper did during his 40-day stint to put on 40 pounds, working with Jason Walsh, who's one of the top trainers in LA, he put on 40 pounds and he was training twice a day. And Jason charges a premium of about $1,500 an hour. So when you're at that level and I don't know about you guys, but if someone were to say, hey, Chris, can you put on 30 pounds of muscle in 30 days? I'd say, oh, I'll try my best. But if someone says, hey, I'll give you $20 million, fuck yeah, let's go. I'm going to do anything and everything and hire the best nutritionists and people. Was it natural? I don't know. I don't, in his role, Brandon, I didn't see him as, if he were to be taking anything, it would have been he would have been more shredded. So that's why I would have been very apprehensive about, saying that he took roids. Now, he could have taken something. I mean, put yourself in that scenario. If someone says 2 months, put on 40 pounds, would you take something for $20 million? I think that's
yes. That was a no judgment question, by the way. I mean, I would get why.
Yeah, no, so I mean, I think from how he looked in that, I would say no. That's just me personally. Versus someone like, let's go with Zac Efron, the way he looked in Baywatch, and because of his age, I would say if I had a bet between the two, I would go with Zac was taking something versus Bradley Cooper. That's just I could be wrong on both, but. So the acute variables for hypertrophy, VFI, the mechanisms for hypertrophy are going to be tension, number 1, damage, number 2, and then stress, number 3, which I created the acronym STD. We got to get more STDs. So you could interpret this as we got to lift heavy shit. And why would that not be the best recommendation for Rocky right in the beginning?
Because you gotta strengthen his joints and ligaments and tendons.
There you go. So he's not ready for it. His connective tissue is not ready for that load. So we need to, again, set those expectations with him and go over the first month. We're not going to get crazy buff. Why? Because we're just going to get a lot stronger. It's primarily neurological. And so after that month, we start putting on a solid 2-3 pounds of muscle per month. So 20 to 30 pounds by the end of the year, that's realistic. People will put on more. Well, yeah, if you eat freaking 5,000 calories of just horse shit every single day, you're going to put on a lot of fat too. So do you want to just, we'll call it dirty bulk, or do you want to put on and still be kind of lean? Do you want to see your abs, or do you want to just be kind of a bulky dude? And I think that's a great example, looking at the difference between someone like Bradley Cooper. He wasn't shredded in that movie versus someone like The Rock or Zac Efron. He was shredded. So if you want the aesthetics, don't go crazy with the calories. You still need to be in a surplus, but be in a surplus with your protein, depending on their size, maybe 1.2, as much as 2 grams per pound of body weight would be aggressive, but that's something you could do. So those are things that you want to look at. So we want to stick to it being light, and that would be to strengthen ligaments and tendons. Now, the next big question that you need to ask Rocky is what? He says he wants to train with you, but what do we need to figure out? We need to figure out how many, this F part, the frequency. So I don't know why it is. I like to blame NASM for everything, but I don't feel like our industry does a good job of setting trainers up for success. If someone's in front of me and they ask, this is a very common question you're going to get back from your clients. You're going to say, okay, let's talk about training packages. What do you want to do? Very common. Your clients are going to say what to you?
What do you think?
What do you think? What do you think, Chris? Chris, I want to look like you. I want to look like a freaking Greek god. What do I need to do? I'm not going to say, hey, Rock, let's work out 1 or 2 times. 2 to 3. Fuck that, Rocky. You're an attorney. You have the funds to do this. We're going to train 6 times a week. We have a guy in Santa Monica. This isn't the same guy, but he's an attorney. His name's Chris. And when he came in, I remember him vividly because he's a big runner and he wanted to put some size on. And we took him through the assessment, went through everything he asked. He said, Chris, how many times should I be training a week? I said, Chris, I train 6. You should train 6. He said, all right. Last year, he did 160 sessions with us. He would train sometimes 10 to 15 times per week because he saw the value in it. He would do morning sessions. He would do night sessions. And I used to live right next to our gym, so I could just walk there. If you have a client that wants to do double days, why not? It's on them. If they have the means to do it, what do you think is going to happen? They're going to get in 10 times better shape. Now, when Chris came into us, he was probably 6 feet, maybe 6'1", $160. Now he's easily 195. Like, he looks good. He's solid, and he's just like, he's in good shape. It's like, that's what happens when you put the work in. So I'm gonna set those expectations for Rock and be like, I'm gonna suggest 6 times. Now, if he wants to come back, this is when the negotiations start. Because I think a lot of people are like, oh, that's a little too much. Okay, what were you thinking? I'm thinking 2 or 3. All right, Rocky. So in the past, when you did those workouts by yourself from a magazine, how many times a week were you training? I was training 3 or 4 times, and then you quit. Okay, so what's going to be different this time if you're training with me 2 or 3 times? So let him answer that question. Well, I'm working with you. Okay, yeah, it's definitely better than once or twice, but I'm going to suggest 6. And what we're going to do is we're going to meet halfway, Rock, and we're going to go to 4. And that's the fun part about the negotiations. You'd be like, Chris, I told you 2 or 3. Fine, we'll settle on 4. And then it's like, it's negotiations, all right? So have fun with it. Don't take sales so damn seriously. It blows my mind how many trainers are just scared shitless of the sales part. Like, oh my God, what do they say? No, who gives a shit? Put the realistic expectations on the table. Finagle with him a little bit. I'm going to say 4 when he comes back. Okay, we end with 3. Great. So here's what we're going to do, Rock. I'm going to suggest you get 36 sessions. What the hell, Chris? I just told you I want to do 3 times a week. Why don't we do 12? Well, we can do that, but don't you want a deal? Because the longer that you commit to, as you said earlier, what's going to stop you from quitting like you did before? So when you commit to 3 months, you're going to be on track for greater success. And my clients can vouch for that. The ones that stick around the longest are the ones that train the most. So I'm going to suggest 3 months, and he can come back, but it's in a fun little negotiation. He's going to say a month. Great. So you settle on that 12 sessions. So then what we're going to do is if we're going to do 3 sessions per week, what type of programming do you think we'll do?
Whole body?
Full body. Now, what if you were to say 4 plus?
Upper or lower.
Yep. You want to do a split, depending on the days. More than likely, you'd probably want to do upper lower. Now, what if you were to say, I want to train, no, so upper lower would work. You're fine. So if you were to want to do something more than that, so maybe like 6 days, how would you have to do it?
Split.
You could do 4 days of a split and 2 full body days.
Oh, work. You can do, you could do something like a chest, back, shoulder, leg, upper, lower. You can do what did you say, Natalie?
You could do like a 4 days of an upper lower split and then 2 full body days.
Yeah, that'll work as well. So we just need to figure out what he wants and find out what he did in the past. And now I'm going to create a program for him. So I think, if he really wants to look like a freaking brick house, he should be training. What would you guys suggest for him? And I think that the more fun you have with it, the easier he's going to feel. So like for me, I can get away with it just because I'm bigger than him, but I'd be like, Rock, you want to look like me? You got to show up 6 times a week. You want biceps like me? You can kind of do it in a fun hearted way, but I would suggest that he's going to train somewhere in the realm of 4 to 6 times per week. So what type of program would you guys like me to write out for you right now?
Four days?
Hmm?
4 days upper lower split.
Okay, so let's do upper first. Now we have our core patterns. What are our main core patterns?
Push, pull, squat, hinge, lunge.
Unilateral or lunge, and those are the main ones. So for upper, now do you think it would be smart to do a big vertical loading set? So let's say bench press into pull up, into push up, into biceps, into triceps, into. So what do you guys think about this? Doing it as a big circuit, bench, pull up, push up, biceps, triceps, military press, cardio, rest, and then go again. You guys can't see my screen right now? Yeah, tell me.
It's too much.
Too much? What do you mean?
I think it's too many like big compound movements. I would like break it up and
I got you. Yeah. Someone mentioned that they couldn't see my screen. Can you guys see this okay?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that if your goal is hypertrophy, rest is the name of the game. And so I prefer to break it up into what we do is our circuit. So it doesn't need to be a bench press. You ask him, Rock, what do you want to do? So someone be Rock right now and tell me your favorite upper body exercise.
Bicep curl.
Okay, so then if we're going to do bicep curls, why wouldn't we do bicep curls first?
Because it's a single joint movement. You want to
And when you look at optimizing hypertrophy to create the most damage, multi-joint's going to be best. So when you're here and you're pulling down, you're going to have extension, you're going to have downward rotation, you're going to have a lot more muscles that are engaged, causing way more damage, releasing more testosterone. It's far superior. So I want to do a chin up. Now, do you think it would be good to do like a military press next? That'd be fine. You could do that if you like. Why wouldn't it be the best to do like a bent over row?
Because you just did an exercise for the lats. And so, yeah.
So that it might be a little too taxing on that muscle group. Now you could do that later on, but as for a beginner, we don't need to go there. Now here, what you can do is you can implement some type of an accessory. So think of this as a more of like an isolated area. So you could do a bicep curl, you could do a tricep extension, you could do like a lateral raise. What would you guys like to do here for an isolated exercise?
Plank.
You could do that, but let's put some more volume on his upper body.
Tricep extension.
Okay. I like that. So then, because we did our pull here, we did a push here, what do you want to do here for the next exercise?
Squat.
So
Goblet.
we're focusing more on the upper body here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Now it would be a push,
Okay, let's do, what do you want to do for a push?
either bench or maybe push-ups.
Good. And just ask them. In my experience, being king of all bros, I don't know many guys that would be super excited about doing push-ups as like your main bro exercise. So just ask them. Rock could, be living under a rock and be like, dude, I love push-ups. Okay, let's do some banded push-ups. We would know this from the assessment of what we took him through. So let's pretend like, he used some vocabulary in there, like he wants to be carved out of a piece of wood. I'm sure he knows what bench press is. So I wanted the bench press into some sort of another back exercise. Now, the important thing to look at with your patterns is if we do a horizontal push, as we did here. So this is actually a vertical pull. This is a vertical press. So that's going to even itself out. If we're doing a bench press, it's a horizontal press. What would be a good exercise to do here?
Like a back row,
Yeah, so give me an example of a horizontal pull.
a dumbbell row.
Okay. Now, and this is getting tricky here, and we're going over this with anatomy in the class. Would you want to do, technically speaking, would you want to do a neutral row or a pronated row?
Pronated. Neutral.
Nope, go with your gut. Pronated,
Pronated.
because pronated would be a horizontal pull. So that's horizontal abduction, whereas extension is going to be sagittal. So this would be transverse. By doing a dumbbell pronated row, you'd be doing a transverse horizontal pull. And I like that.
Can you say that again, Chris? Just so it makes sense.
Yep. So what plane of motion is the bench press?
It's transverse.
Good. And when you do a neutral row, what plane of motion?
Sagittal.
So are those equal?
No.
So how would I make those equal?
By turning it pronated.
Because that makes it transverse.
Hmm.
So if we did a tricep exercise here, what do you guys think would be good to put here?
Bicep.
And here's a little thing about smart people. And I'm not smart, but Dr. Waterbury would always give me shit. And he's like, don't write tricep. It's triceps. There's nothing that pisses people off more, little things that you learn from folk. So we would do a biceps here. And what type of bicep exercise would you like to do?
Bicep.
Hammer. Good. All right. So we're doing great. Now we're going to do the third one. So we got vertical push, vertical pull. What's the main muscle here when we do the chin up?
Lats,
What's the main muscle here when you do a bench press?
chest,
What do you think would be a good one to do here?
Shoulders.
heavy press.
Yeah. So what's the shoulder exercise we want to do? Maybe when you screen him, you find out that because he's a lawyer, he's always at his desk, he doesn't have the full flexion. He can't get there. So what would be a good exercise that would be overhead friendly?
Landmine press.
Good. So you do your landmine. And then you can implement whatever you like here. Maybe you want to do a chest fly into a reverse fly, which will even itself out. So
Chris, do you find a benefit in doing the landmine press with both hands, or do you prefer to do those unilateral?
unilateral is going to get that core engagement that we haven't implemented too much of. So it's going to be a case by case. Survey that with your clients, but I like the single arm one, and I also like half kneeling too. So you're going to find how we do our programming. Some people will look at this and be like, well, this isn't very complete, right? Because we're missing a huge portion. What don't I have on here that the average person would be freaking out about? Average trainer. What are we missing?
Cardio.
Okay, no, you don't think of it exercise wise. Think of it as acute variables.
That's in reps?
Yeah. So it's like, well, what are we supposed to do? Well, do you think it'll be smart with a beginner like Rocky to do 6 sets per circuit?
Hell no.
No.
What about 1 set? No, 2 sets.
No.
2 sets isn't that much. That first round is like neural recognition. It's like you kind of see what they're capable of. 3 sets like your golden range. Could you do 4? Sure, but I don't think it would be great right now because that would be a decent amount of volume. So let's do 3 sets, and let's implement what's called daily undulated periodization, DUP, DUP. So I like doing, for guys, I do a 12-10-10. For girls, I'll do a 15-12. Maybe 15 or even 10. Now, am I being sexist? No, I'm playing the game. The game is guys typically lift heavier. They're familiar with the 3x10 set scheme. Girls typically lift lighter. They like the 15. They freak out about getting bulky. So that's how I distinguish between the two. So Rock wants to get jacked. We're going to go 12-10-10. Is he going to volitional fatigue, which means maximal failure on that first set of 12? Not even close. He's just learning the movement. When you look at a chin up, from what we saw on there, Rocky said he's kind of soft skinny. Do you think he's doing 12 chin ups?
No.
No fucking way.
Not
Maybe,
at all.
maybe 1. So we're going to help him eccentrically. Now, how many eccentrics do we want to do with a chin up?
3 to 5.
Yeah, so maybe we do 3 set 1. Maybe he can do 4. Maybe he does 5 on the third one. Let's do 3-4-3. Military press, vertical press. We're just kind of fantasizing about what Rock looks like. What weights do you think he's going to use? Dumbbell press.
25s, maybe 30s.
Yeah, so I think the first set is where you just start out real nice and light. I would probably start out with 20s, see how he does. If you feel like that's the progressive sets you can do, that would be all right. Always underestimate with setting expectations. All right, Rock, now we're going to do some military press. We're going to start out real light. I just want to check out your form, making sure you have the proper shoulder mobility, seeing how the flow is. So just set those expectations. Do you want to do it standing or seated?
Seated.
Which one are you stronger at, standing or seated?
Seated.
Why?
Because you don't have, well, it depends on the position of the bench too. If you've got like an unsupported versus supported, that makes a difference.
True. Good observation. I like Natalie. She's like the what's that fucking movie back in the day with the lion and the Tin Man? I can't think of it right now.
Wizard of Oz?
Wizard of
Wizard
Oz.
of Oz.
She's like behind the curtain. We can't see her. She's just there. She's like the voice in the sky, always giving the right answer. I love it.
Can I ask a question though?
Yeah.
So hypothetically, let's say he doesn't have the shoulder range of motion to do military press. Would you then program, like say in that third set, could you do more like prehab exercises, say like Y raises, external shoulder rotations, things like that? Or would you give him like that for like homework or something?
Oh yeah. So you can do it in a couple different ways. One, I'd be willing to bet that we could get them there with proper mobility drills beforehand. So like those ones you mentioned, maybe we do some PNF training, so proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation, to kind of open up that joint. And if we can get him to where I want to be, then I want to train in that range of motion. But if he can't get there and you see his chest flaring up and his tilt is coming out, then what we can do is going from frontal plane, because the scapula, the way it's positioned on the rib cage, it's more, they call it the scapular plane. You'll see some nerds out there be like, oh, there's actually 4 planes. It's sagittal, transverse frontal, and then scapular. Okay, well, the scapula, it's not like, this is my evening ritual lottery tickets, but here is your rib cage. Your scapula doesn't sit like this. In a 2D book, if you're looking at it, you may think it does, but in actuality, your rib cage is more like this, and your scap sits more over here. So when you're pressing, it's just more natural to be in the transverse plane a little bit versus the stereotypical frontal. So maybe if you were to do a single arm, more flexion-based press, that might be better for him. or you could just have them bring in here and do dumbbell. That's why barbell sometimes irritates people's shoulders, because they don't have that range of motion and they have to retract, and it's hard just to press from that. So I would play around with his positioning of his hands and his humerus to see what works for him. But you could be right with just giving some of those prehabs, correctives that you could put in there for the B. So that would work. So with tricep extensions, that's pretty easy. Just go to the rack and put on there, have them crank out. This could, you could do 20, 15, 12. It's a smaller muscle. So even if you want to do like a drop set at the end, you could do that. Bench press, 155 in my mind. I don't see like a solid dude. He said he's soft, skinny. So I'll probably start out. I'd ask him, when was the last time he benched? And then from that, I would gauge. Now, what do you think I'd start out with?
95.
So that's one of the mistakes I made in the beginning, Mark, is thinking I thought that literally all guys started out with 135 and all women could do the bar. Big mistake. And because of that neurological stuff, I would just start out with maybe even the bar, 10s, probably what I'll be using. And then I would go from there, depending on what he could do. I would probably guess, again, you're just going to learn from experience working with him, but I'll start with the 10s, see how the flow is. Now, if he's just like crushing it, like, oh shit, I way underestimated that, just let him know, dude, Rock, you're a badass. Let me take these off real quick. I really underestimated that. That's my bad. And I'll put another 10 on top of it, or maybe just put a 25. But we don't know, so you want to see what he's capable of. And then the dumbbell pronated row would probably be pretty similar to what he did with the military press, a little more. But just start out with 20s, go to 25s, maybe 30s, maybe even 35s. It's all just going to be guesstimation.
Chris, do you think there's a difference with that pronated row, doing it off of like a rack versus doing it off of a bench?
Oh, yeah, there's a big. I see what you're saying. So like putting your hand on the dumbbell rack versus doing it on the bench. No, I mean, it's pretty much the same. You're fine.
Gotcha.
Landmine press, I would do maybe start out with 10s. Chest flies, what do you think we're gonna do on a chest fly?
15s, 20s.
Same, about
Yep.
10 to 15.
Yeah, that's good. And no one's wrong, no one's right. Now, if you were to say like 50s, you're wrong. Start out lighter. I always tell people, pretend like you're hugging a tree when you do a chest fly. Reverse fly, is he going to be stronger or weaker?
Weaker.
Good. I'll start out with maybe 8 to 12s there. How long do you think this workout would take?
An hour.
I think that you'd find with your warm up, again, Rock could be like a 5'9", 155-pound bro at heart. And if he is, then I'm not going to do much of a warm up. I'm going to get right into it. I'm just assuming he's kind of I say this in a nice way for those that are not from LA, but in my mind, I'm thinking of Rock, in which he was. He's just your pretty LA boy, where he's just like a little delicate little Justin Bieber. It's just like you want to pick him up and shake him, like he's harmless, but he's not like your bro. So, you can foam roll with the guy, you can do whatever the hell you want to. He's not going to be offended by that. Now, if you're working with like a bro, like pretend like I win the lotto and I take 3 years off for whatever reason, I come back, I still have that mentality where if you tell me that's foam roll, I'll be like, fuck you, I don't want to foam roll. That's not cool. So you got to find out like how bro is this guy. And I'm from what I guessed was he wasn't very bro. He was more metro, which he was. So, you'd be fine here. I think this would probably take you about 50 minutes. So then what you can do here is add in whatever the F he wants. So it's like, how you doing, Rock? Body feeling good? And if he's like, yeah, I'm feeling really good, I got some left in me. All right, we're going to do some farmer's walks. Grab some weight, walk back and forth. Maybe we do some push-ups. Maybe he's like, yeah, I want to do some cardio. All right, we'll do some farmer's walks. We'll do some push-ups and then hop up and do some jumping jacks. So you do in that 5 or 10 minute period what he likes to do. So I think that's where we get confused as new trainers, is we manifest like, oh, my clients want to have fun. I'm sorry, but Rock doesn't want to have fun. He wants to get fucking jacked, as he said. And so when you reiterate that to him, it's like, Rock, do you want to get on the Bosu ball and juggle whatever? Or do you want to get jacked? All right, so then we need to lift serious shit. Most importantly, the number one most important workout. Can you guys tell me what that is?
The next one.
Mhm. Today's workout, it's not going to change your body. Tomorrow's will. And then that same approach, the next one, the next one. We got to be consistent. And so then when you look at this workout, I love it. This would be great for a Monday. He comes in on a Tuesday. The next day you ask him, how you feeling? Great. Now we do all lower body. Now, because of the muscle fibers that are primarily of your arms, are they more type 1 or type 2, your biceps and triceps?
Type 1.
So then what you can do here is, because the recoverability, if he's not too sore, all I'm going to do here, I'm not going to really write it out, but you just take those patterns, you do a squat, a hinge, and a unilateral. I'd probably do like a goblet. I would probably do like an RDL, and then I'll do like a step up. And then you can add in core on this day, and then add in accessory bicep and tricep stuff on this day. Maybe you want to add in farmer stuff here. You could do that as well, meaning you do your squat into a farmer's into core. So Mark, earlier you asked like, oh, you could put core here. You could, it's not wrong, but you could just kind of crush upper body. And then on the next day, whatever he's not sore, I'm going to do again. Because when we look at the mechanisms of hypertrophy, tension, damage, stress, volume, frequency, intensity, we're not going to volitional, which means maximal fatigue, every single set. We may only get 1, maybe 2 solid sets per one of these exercises. So make sure he eats his protein, send him a text message that night. Hey, Rock, hopefully you're feeling well. I want to confirm tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Looking forward to seeing you. And then the process repeats.
Hey, Chris, I got a question.
Yep.
You mentioned farmer's walk a couple of times. Where does that fit into the movement patterns? And where would you program that, and why? Is that more for grip strength? Is it more for core activation? Like, where do you?
I wouldn't say core activation. I would say that it's kind of total body strength. I mean, how many times you see in the gym? I love the farmers because it's kind of like a manly exercise. I don't do it with girls for the reasoning of it stresses the traps, and girls don't want their traps to be all shredded up. So I do it because, I mean, let's be honest. We have, 10 people in here, 9 people in here. How many times do you see guys at the gym doing farmers walks?
Never, but I do them.
Yeah, good. I like that. It's a great exercise, and you can progress into suitcase. You can do waiters carries. It's really how you present it. Like, so Mark, have you done farmers walks? I mean, we can do them if you want. They're kind of different. Very passive in my approach versus like, all right, Rock, we're gonna do some farmers walks. How often do you do them? And he's gonna be like, oh shit, like I don't do farmers walk. What? You don't do farmers walks? Are you fucking kidding me? Dude, if you want to get absolutely massive, you got to do some farmers walks. Think of a cornbread Nebraskan dude. He's lifting some heavy shit up and he's walking back and forth. That's what we're going to do right now. Our goal, you should be able to walk with your body weight for 100 yards. So Rock, what we're going to do, grab those 35s and see how far you can go. And he's going to grab those 35s in his delicate little LA hands, and he's going to walk 5 feet, and he's going to drop and be like, oh my God, that was so hard. And you're like, dude, this is why you got to be working with me. We got to get out of your comfort zone. And that's the motivation that we bring to the equation, where he's like, shit, I need to work with this guy or this girl, because she's taking me out of my comfort zone, showing me new exercises. I like how someone mentioned the neutral hammer curls here. You got to put a couple new exercises in there, because your clients, as he did, he fell in love with the novelty. But what he was frustrated with was the lack of results. So we can get him the results by loading up the proper core ones, but then you can have fun with it on the back end. So maybe down here, workout A, you could have workout 1, you could have done the farmer stuff, or the second workout, you can do that. It's all based on how he's feeling and how he's doing. Any other questions? So did you guys find this helpful on how you could design a program for, like, you write this down, you're going to know exactly how you're going to see the hypothetical Rocky who's going to come in, and you're going to know exactly how to take him through that workout. It's going to be just the perfect amount of tension, damage, and stress. You're not going to kill him, but he's going to enjoy the workout where he's going to want to keep on coming back. And that's the most important thing, to get him coming back the next day. What are some other questions you guys have about this program today?
Chris,
I
do
have
you,
one.
somebody like this, I'm sorry.
Hold on a
Keisha.
second, Mark. Keisha's gonna go.
Yep. Go ahead.
Mine is kind of more. Can you explain when you said accessory? When you were referring to it as an accessory workout? I wasn't here yesterday, so.
That's okay. That's all right.
Understand.
So this, we like to do the core patterns on, and we've done a lot of YouTubes on these, so you can watch them as well. But the core pattern is going to be the emphasis that we're focused on that day. So for the leg day, we would want to do a core pattern of a hinge, a squat, or unilateral. So that's what you'd put as the one. Then for the two, for the A, you would put that as well. Something that's antagonistic, that's not going to compromise the integrity of that main lift. And the B is what we call an accessory. So Natalie chimed in and she said, well, could you do like a YTA or some type of, serratus or rhomboid activation exercise there? You could. So here, you could put in here, you could have put the B, the bicep. You could have even done a farmer's here. You can do a corrective exercise here. If he's like a cardio head, you could potentially do a cardio. I'll do more cardio with girls because they typically are better at it. You could do any type of magical muscle that you want. So you ask him like, hey, Rock, what's the number one muscle that you could have on your body right now? And he could be like traps, calves, whatever. Put that in there.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
All right, Mark. What?
So this young lady that I'm going to be training, the one that we were going back and forth on, you said the country one. She's trained before with a personal trainer. That guy, he left town. Long story short, she's also a boxer. She's looking to, just increase her overall strength. But as a boxer, from just some of the reading that I've done, that serratus muscle is a big muscle from my understanding with boxing. Is that correct?
Because it's a protractor of the scapula, and so you're doing a lot of punching and having that rotation there is important.
Is there any specific exercises that you would prefer for somebody that's looking to increase her power of her punch?
So that's a loaded question, because did she specifically say that? Or are you assuming that because she's a boxer?
No, she specifically said that.
Yeah. So has she been training for a little bit or no?
What's that?
Has she been training?
She's been training for a while. She's just been off for the last month without this trainer. And, she specifically said in the assessment that she loves variety. She doesn't want to do the same exercises.
Yeah. I mean, people say that all the time, and I understand. So let's pretend like I'm her. You're standing right there, Mark, with a band. All right. So I'm going to hold the band, and I'm going to work on rotation with triple extension. So you do a couple reps just to kind of go through the motion, and then you speed it up. But notice, you can't really see because this right here, but my hip is rotating. So you can see my Christmas socks, they're coming up here. You get the full rotation while you're doing it. And then you do it on both sides, and you want to get maximal rotation. The front foot is not moving. It's stationary. The back one is. So you're coming across and you're rotating. And that would be a good exercise to put in there.
Would I be able to progress it into a cable? I have a cable machine at my house.
That's fine.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
All righty, y'all. Hopefully you found this helpful. As I said before, I love the case scenarios that you come across. I will put them into ours as well, but it's just to give us more data points as we progress through these. Not feel, it's always funny, people like, you're not bothering me. I'm drunk in a hotel room. I'm just joking, but you can shoot me any type of scenarios and I can draw them out for you. We can put them on here, and it's just going to help everyone else. So you have to realize that anytime that you have a hypothetical or a question, just realize that other people are thinking the same thing. So then when I write these and design them for you, now what you need to do is put this into a Excel or some type of document. So when you have someone in the future who's a hypothetical Rocky, you already had that. And so I think a lot of our anxiety comes from the coulda, woulda, shouldas. Well, what if he says this or whatever? What if he says this? You already have the program, so you don't have to think about that. You just have to relate to the person, build that rapport. And the easy part's training people. It's getting them to like you. I think that when someone's in front of me, I know that the workout's going to be the best they've ever had. But what I'm trying to do is distinguish between what type of personality is this. Is this person loquacious? Is this person a little more reserved? Do they want that high energy trainer? They want the one who's going to just focus on form. That's what I'm trying to determine during that assessment, because I already know that the programming is done and it's going to work. It's about just building that rapport. All righty, so I'll post this on YouTube if you guys want to watch this later on. Feel free to send it to anyone as well. We always appreciate that. So tomorrow we'll be getting into nutrition in the morning, and then we'll go over someone else at night. Have a great rest of the evening.
Thank you.
Mhm.